Hey everybody, this is Stan Wanglund and welcome to Just Thinking 2022. Today is the ninth day of February 2022. I know I'm not drinking big glass of vodka at noontime. I was just taking a couple of days off from doing shows and decided to put out a great short show today for people because it's a beautiful freezing cold day out and I want to get out and do some things. I actually want to start a fire outside because I love a fire outside in the snow when things are just icy and cold and pure. But all that aside, I thought a great idea. I check for trends, watch the news like most of you do, and just am interested in so many things. And those become the basis of the show's Just Thinking. But something that I guess it's part of me being a psychologist, my personality, whatever. I look at myself and I look at other people. I don't exclude myself from this. I mean, we're all human beings. But people spend so much time on driving themselves crazy. And I think that I'd like that to be the topic of today's very brief show. Now, I see all of these things online about coaching, therapy, virtual help, dieting, working out, testosterone, stuff for your skin, stuff for this, stuff for that. And my dog is growling at the window inside in case you roof. People are literally driving themselves insane with things. And if you don't believe me, go to a Walgreens, a CVS, a Walmart, any place, and look at the drug counters. Just look at the things. It's everything for constipation, your skin, for headaches, for ulcers, for whatever. Even this stuff with COVID, so many people are dying, my age, other ages, but particularly elderly people or people in their middle age. Why, they have comorbid conditions. They're overweight, they're overeating, they're unhappy, they're constantly putting all this bullshit on Facebook and Twitter and make-believe lives and alternate realities. All of these kinds of things. Sound familiar? You may even be in that kind of thing where you constantly feel you have to do things that maybe you don't even want to do. You're not even being the authentic person that you want to be. And we wind up driving ourselves crazy much of the time. I know when I was a therapist, I would often remind people, and I do that now to myself, it takes a lot more work to drive yourself crazy than to simply be kind of like normal or sane. I won't use the word normal because that seems to upset people. There's a good example. I'll give you a couple of quick things that I'll elaborate on in other shows. But the first thing is, even though I'm talking about driving, ourselves crazy, that's nothing new. People have been driving themselves nuts in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s and the 30s, at other points in time in history, and everything else like that. That isn't anything new. It's just that we have a lot more time on our hands, believe it or not, and a lot more social media and technology and everything else to help that process along, okay, in terms of driving ourselves and other people crazy. But one way we do that is with gloom and doom. Gloom and doom. My goodness gracious, I'm 71 years old, going on 72, so I'm in a category, let's say with the COVID pandemic, I have to be more careful than my son, for example, who just turned 40 the other day. Happy birthday, buddy. When I was 40, I'm not saying I would be an anti-vaxxer or a non-masker, but I would be less apprehensive about COVID as I am today, particularly since I have high blood pressure versus I'm a young person. I get treated for that. I have to modify my diet, health, and all those things, and I have some issues with my heart. Those are all those kind of things that if I get COVID, doesn't mean I'm going to drop dead, but it's not the greatest thing to have. The flu is not the greatest thing to have at this stage of the game, nor pneumonia. So I take vaccines for those things. I try and be very careful while the numbers are up high. Now that the numbers are going down lower, I'm vaccinated. I believe in vaccines. When I was younger, I might have felt differently about it. Okay? People have different points of view on that thing, on those things. They have different points of view of what constitutes public health or whatever. Maybe I shouldn't have when I was younger, but whatever. Okay? So you get the idea. But the simple point is, I see people now that, as things are changing, as conditions are changing, I'm not saying you have to, get to be politically correct and say, oh, the pandemic is over. No, I don't think the pandemic is over. I think there's still, you have to be careful for things while this situation unfortunately has evolved. But I don't think we have to gloom and doom it. I'm ready to go back and carefully resume activities as safely as I can, in things that I like to do at the gym and bowling and whatever else. Now, I may not do it as a younger person, or if you feel that you're perfectly healthy and don't have these conditions that I might have, okay? When I go to the gym, I'm just going to put a mask on. I don't like wearing a mask, but it's not like the biggest inconvenience because it's more important to work out my heart at the gym, than not to go. And it's probably more important for me, maybe not for you, to wear a mask. But I'm very grateful that, I can consider doing that and other things that I do in a normal life, for me that make me happy. But if you look at what we do as people, my goodness gracious, the news, the information we pump ourselves with is meant to get your attention. And most people, if you say, "Hey, gee, it's a great day out there. Don't you look nice?" They're not paying attention to that, unless they're going to the beach or whatever else it is. But if I say, "Hey, man, this is really dangerous," whatever, your survival, your fantasy life, everything feels threatened. So people manipulate us, and we manipulate ourselves and other people by constantly attending to gloom and doom. It's like the basis of neurotic behavior. You know, I'll give you an old Freudian thing, the neurotic behavior, this, morbid dread of things, gloom and doom. So, look at things realistically. There's a wonderful book by Steven Pinker on the Enlightenment and everything else like that. He's a famous psychologist, and people, try to pan it, but they can't. And with all the bad stuff that's going on now, we're better off in the world every single which way in so many things than we have been 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago. And that goes across race, that goes across the big problems, that goes across with climate, that goes across with money, that goes across with all health. Believe it or not, overall, we're way better off. Now, it doesn't seem that way at times, and we may be predisposed not to want to think that way. But that's the truth. So glooming and dooming everything helps drive people crazy. A couple of other quick things. One of them is stop apologizing for everything. We need to stop. We need to, to stop looking for things to find in other people that they did yesterday, 40 years ago, or whatever. I'm not saying people behavior doesn't have consequences. Far from it. I believe in reality therapy. I believe in, behavior has consequences. Just what I'm saying. But my goodness gracious. Let's get real. Nobody can progress and develop. What's human growth and development? It means growth and development. You make errors, you learn how to cope with them, you change your behavior in a productive way, hopefully. Not in every single way. And that's it. What you did 40 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 2 years ago, perhaps, if it's not a crime, hey man, that's it. And if you need to apologize to somebody, if you feel that you really do, not out of political correctness, don't, do what a 12-step program would do. Make your apology, and if people accept it, fine. If they don't, then move on from there. What can you do? Everybody makes mistakes. So this this politicizing apologies and things, and I have to apologize for some white male who did something. Come on, or if I said something in a class and I slipped or something as a teacher and it was good, well intended, okay, I can own up to him and say, "Gee, I didn't realize that. Gee, I'm so sorry if I hurt your feelings." But after that, come on, get over it. This silly stuff of people feeling guilty about Christopher Columbus or this. Come on. That's the myth of the noble savage. I'm not saying indigenous people weren't wrong. They wronged others. This is the world the way it was. Grow up. I mean, I could go on with big elaborate kinds of things, but I'm not going to, because then I would be driving myself crazy. You're probably thinking this, so whatever. Entertain it. Two other quick things. One is stop putting ourselves in the role of victims and oppressors. If you don't agree with something that somebody does, you immediately feel victimized. I feel victimized, and that person's an aggressor. They're not. Okay? If black people are rioting in a Black Lives Matter movement or something, a year ago, because they feel that they're terribly mistreated or whatever else, or things are wrong, or you don't agree with it. If it isn't your store, if it hasn't been done to you, if nobody's beating the crap out of you, I mean, you may not approve of that. I'm just using that as an example. You can flip it around on the other way. You know, what are you a victim of? Who has victimized you? You know, that's like that silly stuff with sports, where we won today. Why are you on the Buffalo Bills? No, you're a fan. Okay, make the connection in your head realistically. You're not on the goddamn field. You're a spectator. Okay, so if it affects you directly, yeah, maybe you've been victimized, or something bad has happened to you. If it hasn't affected you directly and affects you indirectly, it's something you disapprove of or whatever. Get with reality. Put it in a realistic perspective. You know, and those people who don't agree with you, people make you feel uncomfortable for some reason. Politically, or with the things that they're doing, or they don't agree with your lifestyle. You don't have to agree with that. You can be actively opposed to that. But for goodness gracious, you don't have to make them oppressors. I don't feel oppressed by the ultra right or the ultra left, unless they start trying to cheat, steal an election, do wrong kinds of things, influence people in silly ways. If it's a cancel culture silly thing because somebody exercised their freedom of speech or whatever. If I can't hear a show that I like because whatever, yeah, I don't feel that people are oppressing me necessarily. I may not agree with it. But if it starts to really impact my life, my well being, and my rights, yeah, then they may be an oppressor. But it's probably a lot less than we thought. And I certainly don't want to go back in history and start, blaming other people for oppressing me when we're 200 years, from whatever. Look at the people today who are oppressing you if they are. There's no hidden message in there, by the way, for black people or Caucasian people or anybody else like that. It's just to get with reality on those kind of things. You know, I guess lastly, if you want to stop driving yourself crazy, the other thing is, let's start using some fundamental skills of human interaction. If we're talking to somebody, put the cell phone down. Take some time off of social media and alternate realities and alternate virtual realities, and conversing endlessly with artificial intelligence and algorithms and all kinds of inhuman bullshit, and learn some fundamental skills on how to relate to other human beings. It's as simple as that. The stuff we're engaged in right now is ridiculous. I mean, my favorite example is go to a supermarket. And it's not just with younger people, it's people my age. I saw lovely, lovely people my age all the time. I love to go shopping. And I love grocery store. I'm always picking out because I like to cook. And boy, if you put your cart down for a second, you'll see a person that's like they're like a deer or a doe in the headlights. They literally don't know what to say, whether they're young or old. And saw an older woman moving my cart, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she, "Why, you were." I said, "You should have just told me." And that's why people would say, "Excuse me, excuse me." "Oh, don't you look nice today?" "Hello." Shake hands. Come on, man. This is like 101. These are things I used to teach people as a therapist. When they were like kind of like socially inept, or kids needed activity of daily living skills, how to be emotionally intelligent and socially appropriate. Now we just take this shit for, this is normal behavior. It may be the norm, but it's not normal human behavior. This is a recent switch in behavior or transition to behavior. So upset, nobody can tell you anything. This comedian can't be on a campus. You can't teach this. I can't say this. It can't be true because I don't want it to be true. It's bullshit. And it drives people nuts. It polarizes people. And then people develop these alternate realities. Now that's it. I think there are 4 great things to help you out so that you don't drive yourself nuts and I don't drive myself nuts. And I guess the 5th thing is, hey, there's the world the way that it is. And it gets us all pissed off when it's not the way we want it to be. And, I can't change your behavior. Only you can change your behavior. And the only way that you're going to change your behavior, I'm going to change mine, primarily, is if somebody's got a whip and a carrot, or you realize that there's something in it for you, and you do it by your own free will. And there's something in it for you. Yeah, it means that your blood pressure isn't high. It means that you can wake up and taste the coffee and be happy about it, not worried, or have a piece of chocolate or eat a carbohydrate or something and not have to run to the gym for 4 hours. Or, you can't sit in a classroom and hear anything because you're a goddamn nut. Yeah, that's the clinical term. You're a goddamn nut. You're immature. You're unable to cope with simple things in reality. You don't need a coach. You don't need a safe place, a therapy dog. You don't need all that crap. There are people who need those things, and for very good reasons. The vast majority of people don't, and they're being convinced that they do. Being a nut is, or being, offended, being a victim is very popular now, and it isn't pretty to watch. And you're going to wind up in your latter years being a very, or even right now, you're going to waste your life on a lot of nonsense. Well, that's my show. Don't drive yourself crazy. You'll do enough of it just as a normal person, just by accident or bad training. Don't add fuel to the fire if you're a smart person. And since I love people, I like to share that idea. So have a good one. Catch you next time on Just Thinking.